the October 26th, 2015 meeting of the Joint Local Development Finance Authority Troy Subcommittee to order. Mr. Lapin, will you take the roll, please?
I will. Chairperson Belcher meeting.
Here.
Paul Huff. Present. Michael Kidder. John Sharp.
Correction, Michael Kidder is no longer.
Oh, excuse me. That's right. That's right. John Sharp. Not here. David Shields. Here. Mick Vitale. Here. Alternate Ellen Holderick. Present.
Present.
Present. And alternate Dane Slater is not present.
Okay, thanks so much. All right, the minutes from April 27th and July 14th were included in our packet. If you will note, the minutes for July 14th really were kind of to see if you were awake, because it did say that the meeting was called to order by Robin Beltramini, and then it says members absent, Robin Beltramini.
Yeah.
So this is a corrected copy. That was the only change though, right? Hi, John.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Would you like one motion for both sets?
That would be delightful.
I move approval of the minutes of the July 14th, 2015 and April 27th, 2015 meeting.
Second.
Thank you, gentlemen. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Old business. Mark Miller, update on the smart zone.
I have a short PowerPoint. Yes. Okay. First, I want to thank all of the board members for showing up, who could show up in the summertime to help recommend approval of the amended, restated, and extended development plan and tax increment financing plan. So what I'm going to do is provide an update what has happened since you made the recommendation. And this is so long terminology. It's for the cities of Southfield and Troy Joint Local Development Finance Authority Certified Technology Park. So on August 24th, both Southfield and Troy City Councils approved the plans and adopted resolutions. And that was to amend the district boundaries in Southfield. So that means their boundaries now include the Lawrence Technological University campus, which is actually tax exempt, but they just want to collaborate. And then it was to approve the amended, restated, and extended development plan and tax increment financing plan. Then those certified resolutions were submitted to the state of Michigan. And since those were stated, you probably heard on the news some things happening up at the MEDC, actually negative stuff. What had happened really, in my basic knowledge, because I don't know it in great detail, that through some case law, the MEDC lost some tribal funding revenue. And that was pretty dramatic to their budgets, and they've had to cut, 63 staffers through attrition and layoffs. And so there was a lot of questions and unknowns what's happening. And actually, I was at an event, the Southeastern Council of Michigan, Michigan Council of Governments General Assembly last week at Schoolcraft College, and the governor was there. And he readily admitted it's going to be still an issue to fund the MEDC in the future and how they're going to do it, but they have to do it to be competitive, but they're going to have to right-size it. So the attrition layoffs have occurred. They've sort of reshuffled, and the MEDC has affirmed that they will continue reviewing the smart zone extensions, and they will and there were, what had happened is there was two sets of legislations that allowed for the extended smart zones with a satellite, and initially there was authorization for 3 of them, and there was first in would be considered, and the first ones were the Houghton Hancock with a satellite in Marquette, and then Ann Arbor Spark with a satellite in Adrian. And then us, we came in with ours. And then subsequently, there was a lot of rumblings out in the west side of the state, Grand Rapids area. So then the legislature authorized 10 more extensions with satellites. So what has happened is there's a new new state treasurer and a somewhat new MEDC director, kind of wanting to get their arms around all of these smart zones. And I guess some of them aren't doing the reporting as well as Troy does, and they're really being effective. But with that being said, the 3 of us that were in first are being reviewed, while the other 10, they're holding off on even reviewing them and trying to create criteria for them. And then so, I did receive contact last week from the MEDC, and they are reviewing our plan. They're trying to get caught up because the staff person, if you may recall, I'm not sure who was on the board when Rosalind Zader came here. She abruptly retired, I assume she retired when there was no plans in place, no one knew what was going on. So, but the MEDC is getting caught up. But the good news is that they're starting to review our plan. They also understand that there is certain value to have this approved before the end of the year. So it's in effect the next calendar year. In Southfield, that's important. It's not as important for us because we still have 4 years left on our plan. It doesn't expire until 2018. I think that's it. Well, no.
Can you go back?
Yeah, sure.
That last bullet point, Troy requires additional information, what is that?
So far, there was, well, let me backtrack. So when you have a tax increment financing authority, you have the base taxable value. That's when it's created, the base is, and we had some numbers that had some discrepancies. One was 13 million and change, one was 14 million and change. And it seemed like we were trying to raise the base, and we can't do that, it's set. So I'm working with our assessor to clarify exactly what that was. There was actually some discrepancies even going back to the old document. And so
So you just have to reconcile the numbers.
Right.
To figure out.
It actually, whatever we've been doing, which I think is a $13 million number, that's what it will be, because we
Okay.
can't change that base number.
And Southfield's numbers were okay? Where they weren't?
They didn't tell me.
Okay.
And to be honest, they're just starting to get into it, and they're somewhat overwhelmed. I've been in discussions with Southfield's representative, I don't know if you remember Shelley
Mhm.
Freeman. We talked, and we're gonna try to get an appointment with the staff rep at the MEDC and just go up there and try to meet with them and explain, try to answer any of their questions. Because we've had a very good collaborative experience with Southfield, so we want to do everything together. It's one document.
So a delay won't really hurt us because we have 4 more years, but will it hurt them?
Well, because they're trying to add an area to the smart zone
Right.
in their CTP. It won't affect funding-wise because the area they're adding is
Taxes.
taxes out. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay?
Mhm.
Why would we even try and raise the base?
We didn't. It was just,
Yeah,
it was.
I mean, but why would
well,
they think that? It doesn't
They might
make
have
sense.
thought, they may have thought we didn't know what we were doing and we were trying to raise it to a new base.
No.
It actually would have hurt us. because it
Yeah,
would have
that's
gone up.
right.
It would have
I mean,
hurt us.
It makes no sense.
All right. So the next steps is Automation Alley is attorneys are advising them to enter into with the city a service agreement, what services are going to provide for the funding we provide them. And so I would expect we would bounce that off of you as it comes forward, but it's really not it's not important until the plan's approved, to be honest. And the second item is the Smart Zone Amended Agreement. We need to get that with MEDC before it actually would go into effect. And then, of course, both city councils need to approve all of that. And that's where we're at.
So when do you think the next step will happen? We're waiting for the MEDC right now.
Correct.
Right? Okay. So we can't do anything until they move forward.
That is correct.
But
Would
they
you
are
expect
actively
anything
reviewing.
from them?
Yes, they are. They're starting the review, actually, and it seemed a little quicker than I thought. But you know how once people review stuff, time could go on, and next thing you know, a month or two goes by.
But it's your thought that that will be squared away by the end of the year,
I hope so.
so that by the time we meet in April, all of those agreements ought to be at least drafted.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll be honest with you, there is already a draft service agreement and an MEDC Smart Zone agreement. But what the initial MEDC Smart Zone agreement, it did not include the expanded area for Southfield. And the staff didn't even know that the attorneys and the old staff sent that MEDC agreement to it. The MEDC didn't even know that. the staff that was left behind.
Yeah.
Do you see the need for any, would anything precipitate another special meeting before our April meeting?
I'm not sure. Maybe, maybe not. Not definitely.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna get off this PowerPoint. Go back to. Close that. Okay. You know what happens here? You know that. Don't ever get a Surface. I'm serious, don't. All right, so the next.
Move
go
across
ahead.
Troy?
Yeah, the move across Troy. So, the CEO of Altair came to the city manager and said that his employees were crossing mid-block to things on the north side of Big Beaver. And not just because of that, but because of we're getting a lot more pedestrian activity on Big Beaver. We developed this initiative called Move Across Troy. We had hired Sam Schwartz Engineering and their staffer, Mark DeLaverne in their Chicago office. He's an expert in sidewalk planning and pedestrian movement and did a plan for Chicago. We brought him in, we did a quick study for the city of Troy and identified some locations where we would need to have crossings. One of them was identified here, right in front of City Hall. So we have started doing the preliminary engineering on a crossing out in front of Altair in the Smart Zone area. And that's potentially eligible for funding from this organization. So we have, and let me tell you, this has been tough dealing with the Road Commission for Oakland County because they would just prefer everyone go to the mile ends to the traffic lights to cross. And so we have them on board and we're using our consultant, OHM, and they're bringing in their urban designers. This is going to be like nice, not just your basic crossing. So when we get better information and pictures I can show you, I'll bring that to you, and we'll probably be proposing some of our funding be used for that improvement.
And this is lights, bridges, tunnels, any of the above?
No, there are existing lights there.
It's strictly lights.
Lights and timing of the lights and
And maybe the pavement,
you have
do
and
something
protection,
special.
and you have to cross and then go down the median a little bit to get to the next traffic light. There are lights for crossovers there. And we'll use those and coordinate with the existing traffic lights to do that.
At grade.
Yeah, great.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
That was basically,
Yeah.
yeah.
And we're dealing with issues like if during winter snowplow and, how to deal with the snow and, the typical ways in which we do it, which would be a pickup truck, which causes maneuvering problems. So
Have we looked at other options?
for,
You mean like above grade and below
Right.
grade?
Yeah.
yes,
Okay,
yeah, bridges cost too much money.
right. What about below? A little tunnel under?
Costs a lot of money.
Right, and then you have security issues.
Yeah.
Usually below.
Yeah, below for sure.
I know a little bit about tunnels because we were going to do one for the transit center. People don't like tunnels if you can't see the end at the other side. If you go down, if the grade is too much and then you just see darkness, they don't like to use them because it's the unknown and the security.
Okay.
One nice thing with, as Mark was saying, there's a crosswalk, and then the preliminary idea is to kind of jog it and then connect across again, so kind of like an S walkway through the median, which is a very common approach now across the country.
Right.
Usually don't see like straight shots all the way across. Now you want to be able to slow, or if it's a bike or whatever it might be,
Right.
slow up a little bit.
Breaks it up,
Breaks
too,
it up.
but then people get, not stranded is the wrong term, but they get stuck in the middle for a change of lights sometimes, right? Which could be a liability issue if a car were to go out of control or something like that. The other issue is, will it affect the timing of the lights, i.e. make them longer so that traffic on Big Beaver will be more congested in the future?
I don't know the answers. We'll have a traffic engineer who will talk about that when we have more design.
Right.
On the other hand, if enough more people are walking,
Instead of driving, less traffic.
at the end of the day,
Yeah.
that should be.
There's already a lot of lights on Big Beaver.
Right, and the fact is Big Beaver is really susceptible to the peak rush hours.
Right, exactly.
Morning and afternoon and a little bit lunch rush hour.
Right. Okay.
So it's-
Look forward to hearing more about that.
Yeah.
We're just seeing more and more as we talk about even the bike trails. You hear more and more people talking about the need for walkable, bikeable areas. And I've actually really been observing Big Beaver biked up and walked up on just in my own time, because there's this natural tendency, residents will say, oh, nobody walks up there, nobody walks up there.
A lot
Yeah,
of people.
they do.
Right.
Even in inclement weather, even in the cold. I've really been taking time to look, not a statistically, it's qualitative response, but I keep looking at different times and whatnot. We have people trying to move, and to me, it's a liability issue if we're not looking at how we help people
I
move.
agree. It's just,
So-
we don't want to create new issues.
New issues
by
as we
fixing-
cracked an old one.
Right.
The good news is, the piece of Big Beaver in front of our area has a destination on the north side and enough workers on the south side that it will be used, and it will show us how those kinds of things are used.
Right.
Because eventually they will have to be put in other places, whether it's Big Beaver or Crooks or wherever, so.
One of the things I've heard for years is Troy really doesn't have a downtown, walkable, et cetera. And I'm thinking now of that area you're describing right out in front here, and what they did, was it Clawson, where they narrowed Livernois and moved it down to 25 miles an hour? I mean, will that ever be,
It's a classic recommendation by pedestrian engineers, I will tell you that,
Yeah.
that is one of the cheapest ways for cities to slow down traffic, is to
Right,
narrow
and create a
the street.
downtown type
Yeah,
feel.
and create
So
walkability.
at Livernois and Square Lake, you can do that. That's the downtown.
Originally, you're exactly right. Yeah, originally, you're exactly right, but so,
that was where it was supposed to be? Livernois?
that's
it's
what it
really-
originally was, yeah.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, so but I think it's a great, and personally, I'm happy to be a part of the grand experiment to make it work.
I see people all the time, and clearly they're staying at the Marriott. They want to go grab a bite to eat.
Right.
across the
Champs.
street.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
At Champs or
Yeah.
TGI Fridays.
Right.
and You see them standing there waiting.
Right.
and waiting.
Well, there's more and more restaurants on both sides, and that's creating a lot of traffic as well.
And now with the new children's hospital,
Oh,
outpatient
yeah.
facility opening up, you're going to see
Yeah.
more of that traffic there.
I think there's like a traditional, I'm just kind of talking off the top of my head, like a traditional feel for what we define as a downtown, if you will. Like, I guess we could use Rochester as an example, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Or Birmingham.
Royal-
And I'm starting to think about, okay, we'll have a Troy version of what that looks like and feels like. It may not be that slowed down kind of downtown feel, but we have this corridor that allows for movement. If you think of the transit center, and if we ever had some sort of a shuttle or cable car, people were biking and walking, it may not be a traditional downtown, but it might be this century's version of it. As you look at this next generation of people who want to walk and they want to bike, and they're willing to walk and bike quite a bit further than we did in a traditional downtown sense. So we'll never have a traditional downtown, perhaps, that's slowed down, because Big Beaver, by definition, needs to move. People, we are a pass-through city as well. So, and people need to move through, and people need to get out of these office buildings, but can we create that mix? And the consultant that came from Chicago, he was just,
He was excited.
he was excited. He reminded me of Disney Imagineers, the GM, when I worked at GM, they brought him into the GM building to look at how things could be reimagined. That was before it purchased the RenCen, but they just see the potential. And we just saw this old building stuck in the 70s, right? And they just lit up. Well, this guy lit up like a Christmas tree at the potential, and didn't see it as it's a manageable yin and yang. Yes, there's that need to
I'm
keep
sure we
traffic
got
moving.
very excited. Super complicated consulting engagement, absolutely.
But I actually don't think he thought, that was what the beauty of it is. We see complicated, he just said, like, this, there are
I
solutions
think
that
they have to
been-
be creative though, because you're right, 6 lanes on Big Beaver, we're not gonna slow that down,
No.
probably.
No,
And yet we're trying to create all this foot and bike traffic, and doing it with lights will slow it down, I think, probably pretty much guaranteed. So I don't know, and I know bridges don't look nice and they're expensive, but maybe 2 or 3 in key locations
I would
to
love
get the
to.
traffic around it, that,
There are a couple of places that,
where you could do, maybe in front of the Marriott, maybe one here. I mean, if you put them in key locations, then people
I
could.
agree.
And they could be
Architecturally, it could be.
gorgeous.
And they
They
could.
can.
Here, they
Yes.
built on Spain.
That's where you get excited. yeah.
Yes,
The
yes.
bridges
I see
over the river. Oh, gorgeous, curving and
Right.
square, but expensive. I think the UN put those up for them.
But if we think we're going to get there, let's just do that now and not be
And do it right
penalizing.
first.
Right, exactly, instead of
Agreed.
keep spending more and more.
Well, we have one at Somerset, so.
I don't think we're doing that everywhere.
that one looks nice, but I don't think the ones for pedestrians to go to lunch.
Right.
Or,
Need that.
yeah, no. It
No,
doesn't
but I
need to be
mean-
climate controlled with an moving
I don't even know about
walkway.
enclosed, but all
I
that
don't
can be
either,
looked
yeah.
at.
Maybe
I
it
mean,
needs to
the
be safe.
Beaumont's Bridge on DeQuinder
Absolutely.
is
Right.
very nice. It is enclosed, but something that size makes more sense, I think.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And the point being is that I think architecturally and aesthetically, it wouldn't be, it could be a character trait
Mhm.
to what our version of downtown looks like. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think you're right. We need to dream and scheme it and not restrict ourselves as we look at this potential. I just think it's great that we're looking at it.
It's also easier to do an elevation if you have buildings at either end that already have more than one story,
Mhm.
you know. Then
Right.
you can connect those
Aesthetically, it looks
buildings.
nicer, too.
It looks nicer, it's cheaper.
Yeah,
You know, the bridge may be a little longer, but it's all straight,
right.
so
Yeah.
you have those kinds of things.
It's not our LDF, but that, the underpass over the expressway, wasn't there going to be some work on, maybe it's happened already, but it was going to be done there.
I think actually we had gotten some money from MDOT and we replaced the fence.
Okay.
And we want to improve it because there are people who stay in hotels who walk under there in the morning, I've seen them. Now, MDOT has plans to totally change those and add a lane of traffic north and south and redo that whole bridge coming up.
Really?
Yep, in like 1820.
So just to the fence, it's been cleaned up too.
Yeah.
A lot of debris has been
Oh, it
cleaned
has.
up.
Right.
It's a lot nicer.
We're just hesitant to invest a lot from our perspective, knowing that this change is coming. so.
Okay.
Yeah, the lane of traffic all is being added north and south through all of Oakland County. On I-75.
It's incredible.
Oh, the lane of
That's
traffic that you're
That'll
adding is
slow
on
traffic.
Yeah.
75, not Big Beaver.
Correct.
Right.
But the bridge will
They
have to
could
be
use-
rebuilt.
Big Beaver could use it too under that bridge.
Well, we're gonna work with MDOT to make it a better pedestrian space underneath. Because if you've ever walked under there, it is not nice.
No, and
Right
it's,
in the middle of our central business district to have something that.
Yeah.
well, and the sides are not equitable either. I mean, one side's worse than the other to try and traverse, so.
I'll hide and stop the pigeons
Yeah.
from roosting.
Good luck with that.
Electrical impulses.
So when will we hear more in April?
April?
Yes, definitely.
Cool. Thank you.
You know, and maybe at that time we'll make a presentation of what's being done because we may ask to budget money for it.
I presume they've done bird spikes up there.
I don't know.
Oh.
Uh,
When I lived in Arizona, we had birds, and what they do out there is they have, like these pieces of metal with like
Yeah.
spikes, and you just put them on there, and they don't land on there.
they don't like it.
Delicate.
They have those in a lot of parking structures and
Yeah,
things too to
they
keep the
work,
birds
they work
out.
pretty well.
If there is a presentation in April, can we ask, or at least I would like to see not only the solution, but what other options were considered and why they were eliminated, why they're picking or we picked the one that was chosen? they'll just cut down on questions probably.
Yeah.
Or we may say, this one's a little more, it got eliminated, but maybe long-term, it makes more sense to do that.
And maybe where possible, where we, we typically have sought input from the public, we should make sure this body knows that that's happening. I don't know what the process is going to be, but seeing the routine that I'm seeing out of city management as we look at ideas, maybe we make sure that you all are seeing to weigh in up front in that dialogue as much as possible. Some good ideas.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
So that moves us to when we meet next. It's been scheduled, it's typically the fourth Monday in April and October. So those two dates were in your packet, April 25th, October 24th of 2016. If you all would check what calendars you have right now to make sure that there's not already a conflict, you can weigh in right here and now.
I'm not sure I know.
Well, and many of us don't, but right now, if there isn't, we'll schedule it. But if somebody who is active enough to actually be here says, I can't be there, then we may revisit this.
And does the time work? I mean, we adjusted this time for a Oakland County employee at one time. It was at 3.
3:30 works better for me.
That's fine, whatever, it's your body.
I think it's easy
I
to
start a
do.
new job Monday in Toledo, so I have no idea what's gonna work and what's not.
Good luck trying.
Thanks.
Yes.
Talk about commute. Yeah. All right, April 20, October 25th. That's the last Monday of the month.
Remind me why this is not an evening meeting?
Because staff can do it without any overtime, and it's a relatively small group required to meet. So
Got it.
it's a big ask of staff to
Got
do
it.
it in the evening, quite honestly.
If I know far enough in advance, I'll just schedule around it, so
Okay.
we'll be fine.
You seem fine.
All right, so if there's no complaint about this, do we have to formally adopt it?
Yes.
Okay. I need a motion to formally adopt the meeting schedule for 2016 as presented.
So,
John?
second.
Okay.
Can I ask that?
John
you-
and Dave Shields did this one because,
That's
yeah.
fine. Can you send an electronic, what's it called?
Meeting notice.
Appointment? Yeah, meeting
Outlook?
notice, so we can accept it, yeah.
And the other thing I would like to ask is, I know some of us have had emails or other contact information changed. Glenn, could you please send an updated
Yep.
contact roster to all members of this board? Thank you. Does anyone else have anything to add for the good of the order? Seeing none, and no members of the public. Alan, I guess you're as close to members of the public. I never introduced Alan, I'm sorry. The city attorney, Lori Bloom, is away today, and this is the assistant city attorney, Alan Motsney, who has been our legal counsel today. So, and thank you for being here, Alan.
You're welcome.
All of that being said, the meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you all
Thank
for
you,
your
everybody.
time.